Hi everyone, it's Kayla. So, in my first speech, I mentioned how I love sewing in my free time, and for this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to make one of my favorite projects, which is a baby bonnet. So, now on to what you guys need for this project. Obviously, you're going to need a sewing machine. I use the Baby Lock Molly. I think it's really great for beginners because it's durable, easy to use, and it's got all of the functions. I threaded it with just a simple white thread, any brand, and a white bobbin to match. For the fabric, I chose a yellow checkered and just a plain yellow because I'm going to make it double-sided. And you need some fusible interfacing. This is going to go on the visor just so it can stand up by itself. You're also going to need a pattern. I use one from Pearl Soho. It's called the Baby Sun Bonnet. So to trace the pattern onto the fabric, you need tracing paper and a tracer. You need a rotary cutter and a cutting board and some really nice fabric scissors. A seam ripper is always a good thing to have, just in case you make a mistake in the project. You also need some pins just to stabilize your fabric. And this little number is a bias tape maker. That's for the straps for the bonnet. And a safety pin. You're also going to need an iron and an ironing board just to iron out your fabric and make sure that it looks really professional. So the next step after gathering up all of your supplies is to iron out your fabric. Alrighty, so as you can see, I laid out my pattern on my fabric. This one right here, the visor, goes on the fold so that you just cut one long piece. You need two of these, the hat sides, and only one of these, which is the hat middle. Now to trace, all you gotta do is put your transfer paper under your pattern piece, take your tracer, and just run it over this line. I'm making the 3 to 6 month, so I'll be following the red line here. Alright, so I went ahead and cut out the fabric pieces for the inner lining. What I also did was I cut out a strip, and this is going to be the straps for the bonnet. I don't have a pattern piece for this, so what I usually do is I just cut a rectangle that is 1.5 inches by however long you want the straps to be. I usually go about 13 inches. And now I'm going to move on to the outer lining. Alright, so at this point I have all the pieces cut out. I also cut out a visor section from that interfacing. And now that we're all done with this step, we can start piecing them all together and sewing. So what I did was I pinned the side head pieces to the middle head piece, and now I can go ahead and sew these together. So to sew these together, all I'm going to do is I'm going to sew a 3/8 seam and just pull the pins out as I go along. Alright, so what we're going to do now is I have my two visor pieces here, and I have my fusible interfacing, and we're going to iron this fusible interfacing onto just the plain yellow one today, and that's going to be our inner hat. It's going to be glue side down, and don't worry about this little excess, we can always trim that off later. Alright, so you're just going to pin the visor on like so. Sew it with another 3/8 inch seam. And then this is what it's going to look like when it's sewed on. So you can really start seeing the bonnet come together. So for the straps, what we're going to do is we're going to take our bias tape maker and thread that rectangle that I cut out right through this side here. And it's going to come out folded. We take our iron, we press it right at the edge here, and it's going to make a nice strap. Okay, so this is how your strap should look after you iron it all up and sew it. You're going to tie a little knot about 1/2 inch above the end of it, and then sew it right next to the visor, like so, on your inner hat. So our next step is to attach the inner and the outer hats together. You're going to pin it together like so, leaving a little opening right at the neck here, because that's what we're going to use to flip it inside out. And make sure to tuck the straps in so you don't sew over them. So once you're done with that, you're going to go ahead and flip it inside out through that hole. And just really make sure to double check all of your seams and make sure everything looks good. And now we can go ahead and sew up that hole using either a ladder stitch, or if you're feeling a little lazy, you can just machine stitch it. And with one more iron, there you go. You have an adorable little reversible baby bonnet that you can give as a baby shower gift or keep for your own kid.